I'm so delighted to see you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. EntertainmentCareers.Net is really something that everybody in Hollywood or quote the industry knows about. It is the resource for jobs and careers. But you are really, and this was really your idea. You're the CEO and founder. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, how this came about. You're also a UCLA alum, so that's really exciting. So I'd love for you to just kind of give everybody a background on how this all came about, and then we can talk about kind of the functionality of the service that you offer, and then we can also go into how you interact with students and former students of the Summer Institute.
Thanks for having me again, Beverly. I appreciate it. Yes, and go Bruins. I'm a hardcore Bruin. The EntertainmentCareers.Net started out of, like I think all good businesses start out with the desire to solve a problem. And, when I was a UCLA student, I was lucky enough to get a job at Warner Brothers, which was my big introduction to the entertainment industry. Not being a kid that grew up in LA, it was not really a thought that would be an option for me. And so getting into Warner Brothers and seeing the industry allowed me to get in at a very good level. And I pursued my career in physical production in film and television. And my goal was to produce a feature film by the time I was 30. And so at that point, I was doing that. And the project took a little bit longer than I anticipated. I thought it was gonna take a year. It ended up taking 2 years. So on the last year, I had to, go back to work and finish the film. And it was in that process where, most of my contacts and most of my prior jobs were working on film sets and working on location, and me trying to shepherd the film into completion. I now had to be able to return phone calls and return emails, and I couldn't be on set and I couldn't be away on location. And so, at 30 years old, I was kind of starting over with my network. And at that point, it was, sort of the early days of internet recruiting. And there were jobs sort of scattered all over the place. And so I just really organized the resources for my own sort of selfish needs. And then also me being someone from not LA, and, everyone was always, anytime any friend or anyone that remotely knew me, they would call me and say, hey, my buddy wants to get in the film business. I gave him your phone number. And you have the same conversations over and over again. And so I created something that was called the Entertainment Employment Guide at the time. And it was basically like a how the industry actually works, how you think it works. With a list of the various things of what you wanted to do, to here's where all the jobs were at HBO, here's where all the jobs were at Paramount, here's where you have to sneak on the lot and go into this gate and, go into this building that literally had it on a bulletin board. And so it was really a collection of resources for myself and other people that were, sort of disconnected from the industry. And I was, for about 2 years, I was, pretending to be a producer and pretending to be an entrepreneur, and was having medium success with both. And so ultimately I decided about 2 years in to put full efforts and energies on EntertainmentCareers.Net and launched it into what is probably more what you see today, which is more, we have, obviously one-stop shop for, darn near most everything out there that you would want to find that's entertainment, broadcast, media, entertainment, sports. So it's our goal is to try and save people time. It's like we're all sort of time starved, especially when you're job seeking, and to provide resources and job leads all in one spot versus having to go to 4 or 5 different places or every single studio's applicant tracking system or career portal. So our ultimate objective is to help people find jobs that otherwise don't have mother, brother, sister, aunt, uncle in the industry, and to ideally save people time. And so that's what we do. And it's a fun business. We like to think that we're in the business of helping people in a meaningful way. And with your class in the past, I've connected with a lot of the students and end up, mentoring them one-on-one, and ideally, helping them as much as we can, because we have a unique set of information. We see tens of thousands of success stories and hundreds of thousands of failure stories. And so being able to study both success and failure allows us to share information with UCLA students in particular. We don't share it with USC students. Um, in order to shortcut people and allow them to save time in their quest to enter an industry that they more than likely don't have a good connection into, is why they end up coming to our door. But so it's it's a business, but it's like we look at it as part community service also, because a lot of most of our audience initially from a college age, a lot of them are first generation college educated, first generation professionals. And so we study that life cycle and see where people succeed and where they fail, and ideally arm them with information ahead of time so we can, again, sort of shorten that onboarding process to success in finding that first job, or the internships in school and first job coming out of college.
Well, thank you for that great overview. And that brings me to something that I'd really love for you to talk about. Obviously, anybody can go to EntertainmentCareers.Net and nose around and submit for jobs, et cetera. But something unique that you bring to the table through the Summer Institute is that you really, not only do you introduce people to this whole concept of the website, but you talk about networking, the importance of networking. You give the students an overview of what it really takes to succeed today, and kind of some myth busters. I don't want to steal the thunder for people who might be coming to the class this summer, but those are things that other people don't get. You don't get that when you just go to the website. You just are blindly applying for jobs. So can you just talk briefly about the importance of networking, the importance of some of the tips and tricks that you give our students in the Summer Institute?
Sure. I see you've got some of your former students down there, so they could probably give the lecture just as well. The networking is, I think there's a lot of myths around networking. It's just like any skill, which is most people will sort of secretly confess like, oh, I hate it. It makes me nervous. And I love it and hate it. I'm a people person, but it can be exhausting. And if you don't have a natural gift for it, it's just like any sport or any skill or anything, any class that you took, if you jump to the end of the book at the beginning of the first day of school, you would be like, how in the heck am I ever going to do this? And the answer is you just practice a little each time. And so putting yourself in those situations, and the thing with what our current situation now is great, because you have these much softer abilities to interact with people. Zoom meetings are certainly less stressful than, going to someone's office and sitting across from the desk from them. And so you're in your own comfortable environment. And so there's much greater networking opportunities. And I think one of the areas that we talk about in Beverly's class is one of the biggest gold mines that people neglect is peer-to-peer networking, which is, everyone's sort of like, oh, I got to meet the CEO of whatever company or the VP. The most valuable assets that you guys have are each other, especially in Beverly's class, because I know all the students, I tend to be like all on, like a Slack channel or something, and they're all going back and forth. And, you could sort of think that, well, gosh, this person's in the same boat as I am, and how can they possibly help me? And it's part of its long-term investing. It's like, even for someone like me, which, it's funny because I look at LinkedIn and, it's like when I first started out, you just sort of meeting up with people. And now it's like, you look at your list and like, a lot of the people that I, interacted with at the peer level are, running studios, and it's almost like you're like the tide rises and you rise with them. And so that is your biggest pool, is peer-to-peer people initially. The other sort of misconception is who you go after and how you go after them. And we talk about that in Beverly's class. And, just sort of briefly say is, the person that can help you most is the person that just got a job at that company within the last year. It's fun to sort of network with the CEO, and yeah, they can sort of pass down your resume, but the most actionable intel you're going to get is the person who is just hired there in the last 6 months to a year, because they know the process and they know what it took to get a job at that particular company recently. People that are old, they can't help you. I mean, they haven't looked for a job in 20 years. And so it's sort of fun. It's a difference between, sort of getting entertainment versus an education. And believe it or not, like the people that are in that first couple of years in that position, no one's hitting them up. No one's asking them for advice. No one's asking about their story. So your success rate with that is much higher. It might not be as cool as, saying, hey, I met with the VP or the CEO of this company. But ultimately, it's going to yield you much better results because they're also going to be able to pass you on to other people that are at that level in the company and give you much better actionable intel.
Excellent. And, I'd love for you to just really briefly, Brad, let's talk about the environment today, because obviously you mentioned Zoom meetings and there's a lot of benefits to that. But clearly the entertainment business, the sports business, the media business even is undergoing gigantic shifts and changes as our situation we're coming up on a year of the COVID environment, and it's not, things are going to get better, but who knows when. In addition to that, consumer behavior is changing, how people are consuming media, how they're finding it, how they're finding entertainment. So what are you seeing in the kind of job search environment that mirrors that? And again, not to give away all the great info in this webinar, but just the idea of sort of, has there been a reorientation for job seekers, or is this just kind of keep doing what you've always done?
There's a couple different answers. One is we'll start with a couple pieces of really good news. A lot of people, let me back up for a second. So a year ago, we sort of we like to have our fingers everywhere, our hands on all the employers, just so we understand who's hiring and who's not hiring. We are back now where we were pre-pandemic a year ago, where people were sort of, in that freeze state in March and April and May. We are back to our levels of hiring. We also monitor, the agency and management companies mostly as a sense of a barometer, because they tend to fire first and hire first, because they only make money when their clients make money. And so what we're seeing on all levels is optimism over the next 3 to 6 months, because hiring is back. And it's to speak to, how it's changed. It accelerated things that were already in place. Like, obviously, and that's one thing I love about Beverly's class, and Beverly in particular as a person. Beverly loves technology and loves talking about it, and arms you guys, the people that go through the program, with a better understanding of what's going to happen in the next, 3 to 6 years in the industry. And so obviously direct to consumer, I'll call it the Netflix model or the Amazon Prime model. Obviously, everyone, it's not like that's new, but it certainly accelerated a lot for the companies that were already doing that. Obviously you saw Disney Plus, HBO Max, and HBO Max now pivoting with their concept of, same day distribution, streaming and in theatrical. And so it accelerated a lot in the realms of people accelerating the move to direct to consumer. That I think is because that's pandemic proof. Whether this lasts another 3 months or another 3 years, the ability to pipe entertainment products into someone's phone, living room, etc., just made people double down on that investment. So while certain aspects of the industry, obviously live events and theatrical distribution took it on the chin. Sports pivoted. They were down for a bit. And now it's like everyone sort of figures out the solution, and so in some areas the hiring is exploding. And and one of the things if I remember last time, you had someone from the post-production from Marvel Studios in there, and so talking about how the sort of security lockdown of not being able to work on campus or at the studio is going to change post-production for them and post-production pretty much for everyone. So the concept of, can we work from anywhere with this highly guarded intellectual property? So people are doubling and tripling down on their technology side of things. And so, for people that have an interest in entertainment and technology, it is, it's sort of like the gold rush right now. So enormous opportunities exist. On the sort of the entry level side, it's just sort of, it's shifting around, which is obviously there's certain aspects of the industry that have shrunk. And we're seeing that actually now start coming back. But ultimately, if anyone has any sort of interest in, technology and entertainment, even on the marketing side. It's like, 10 years ago, you would never see anyone hiring a data scientist. And now those are the leading jobs, and to get into marketing for a studio or network or record label. Even they're really embracing analytics and understanding about how to sell things to their customers. So we see enormous opportunity across the board, and in specific, anyone has an interest in the technology side of the business.
That's fantastic. And so that's news breaking, that the hiring is back to the levels that it was pre-pandemic. That's excellent news. Obviously, it's shifting around a little bit, as you say, with data science and analytics kind of taking the floor. We're gonna run out of content at some point, and so we can't have that. And it's interesting because a lot of the streamers that are, the Peacocks, et cetera, some of their biggest numbers are coming from nostalgia play, kind of the old shows that everybody loved whenever. And that's going to last for a while, but it can't carry them forever. So new content has to come in. And I think that's great news for students and young people to know that, there's a lot that's coming up on the rise. So we have a few minutes left before we open up for questions. I would love to just we've touched on it, but a lot of the folks that are on the call today and people that'll be viewing the webinar later are really considering, should I spend this time during the summer taking the MEMS summer program at UCLA Anderson? And I just would love for you to, talk a little bit about this program from your vantage point, and how I know, Brad, that you have been so generous and helped students after the course is completed, and you've really mentored and held Zoom calls, et cetera. I think that's one of the value adds for anybody who's considering taking the course, because you get this really hands-on with this attention from Brad. But talk about it from your vantage point about why it's an advantage for students to go ahead and sign up.
Sure. I've got two positions I can take, and I can speak with immense confidence in this because I've been, working with you and being able to speak and meet the students from your program for several years now. One is from the student side, because what we do is we always offer an ability to follow up, whether we do it in groups or one-on-one. And I always ask the students, whether they come back, 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years later, I'm always trying to say, I'm like, how was your experience with the summer program? And what, how was Beverly's class, and how, and they all, to the one, value it immensely, in the sense of like, and again, a lot of people, especially if they're coming from out of market, it's really their only foothold to get that shot back into the industry. And so from the student level, they're because it's like, we always want to be in the business of recommending things that work. And so we're always asking people what works and what doesn't work. And the students, like, we've always had nothing but immense praise for the program and for Beverly specifically. And from the employer standpoint, and again, this is, it's a value add to everybody. It's a specific value add, an immense value add to people that go to school, do their undergrad or grad school out of market. Because when you're out of market, it's harder to get those opportunities. And so, what goes through the employer's mind is, did this person just wake up today and decide to get in the entertainment industry? Because if you went out of market, maybe you weren't able to come to LA or go to New York or go somewhere to get that critical internship experience. This is a great way to show ongoing interest into an industry. And the thing with Beverly specifically, and one of the reasons I love her so much, is she's not one of these people that, was in the industry 50 years ago and is telling you, retelling you stories about, what happened, a half century ago. She is very, real deal. She doesn't sugarcoat anything. She tells you what you need to hear and what you want to hear, but mostly it's things that are going to help you. And so that's one of the reasons I'm specifically attracted to come speak to her class every year, is because they've already been armed with real information. And employers understand the value. What that does is, because this is a very difficult industry with a high attrition rate. And so what they want to know is, does this person have an idea of what they're getting into? And going through a program like this, plus, if I remember correctly, you guys have like a critical project that the students have to do. And so what does it show an employer? It shows that you can collaborate. It shows that you have done a real world project in the entertainment industry. And so there's immense value in that. And if I can sort of go in, I know we're running short on time, and to speak to that, which is the thing that's really unique about this year is the way the internships are going to be run, which is, all the major employers have come out already, and they've, last year was a wash on internships. A lot of them canned their program. This year, everyone's committed to remote interns. So it's going to provide enormous opportunity for people who can't get to LA, can't get to New York. And so, someone theoretically in Des Moines, Iowa, and I was talking with April before, like someone from Des Moines, Iowa has a shot at not only doing, an awesome summer program, but also they have the ability to get an internship in the industry at the same time. So it's a really unique moment in time. And we love it because it's going to level the playing field as far as who's able to get these internships, which shifts who's able to get these critical jobs right out of school. And so we see it as a massive reshuffling of the deck, being able to have more people with more opportunity. And then that's going to change the way the industry looks moving forward.
Well, that's again some breaking news, that internships are going to be up again, and remote internships. And you really laid that out beautifully. So thank you so much, Brad. Great information. We're going to go ahead and I think open up for questions. I'm not sure, April, how you want to do this. Do students raise their hand or just unmute and ask a question?
They could go ahead, and students, you could go ahead and either unmute yourselves, ask your question. If you want to ask a question through the chat, there's options.
Okay, great. Will you keep an eye on the chat, April? And who would like to ask a question or make a comment? Just go ahead and unmute and go for it.
I have a question. So you mentioned right now that there's going to be more virtual internships, and I was wondering how a student can stand out to their employers if everything is online.
I think obviously you're going to want to, and it's tough because, on one hand, the critical skill is going to be able to manage your own schedule much better because there's it's a leap of faith, right? And so the ability to self-direct, self-motivate, without someone breathing over your shoulder, someone who is highly, what you want to display is that you sort of have that initiative, which is, do you start things on your own? Show examples. And again, like as Beverly knows, it's like, we don't just say these things when we're talking to employers. We always want to back up what we're talking about. And so you want to give, whether it's a class you took or a club that you run at school or whatever, some sort of tangible way that you can prove these skills. Obviously, understanding how remote learning works. You guys, everyone in school has done it already, but it helps to sort of say, the vast array of platforms that you can work on, because not everyone works off of Zoom. It's Google Meet, it's Microsoft Teams. Have them make sure that they're brushing up on every sort of peer-to-peer communication tool, whether it's video, audio, everything. Because it's like the ability to, if they can shortcut the internship by, hey, I already know the platforms that you guys work on and I'm already trained on them, that's obviously going to give you a huge leg up, because there's a digital door that we have to go through now. And so if you're not, very much demonstrating that you have these skill sets already, then you're a little bit of a loss for the person that's making it obvious that they know the platform that they're on and that they already know how to do it. And again, whether it's, like video or, sort of the text-based like Slack or whatever it is, so it's those types of skills are more relevant, than they were a year ago for sure.
And I would add to that your digital presence today is more important than ever. And how you present in the digital universe is going to matter. And this is something that in the beginning of COVID, everybody was kind of like, well, whatever, I'm in my sweatpants, but nobody knows, and I can be off camera. none of that's going to fly anymore. How you look, how you present, how you speak, where you look, how well you can manage the platform, as Brad was saying, are all going to count. So I think that's a really great question to kick us off, Edith. Thank you for that. I would love to ask my friend Sam Glick. Sam, I don't know if you'd be willing to speak up a little bit, but you were in the course last summer, and you are having some great success. And first of all, I'm so pleased. As my former students know, one of my favorite things is to hear from you about how you're doing. So maybe you could say a few words about your experience and kind of how all of this has helped you.
Yeah, okay. First off, hello, Professor Macy and Mr. Hall. I remember when Brad came and talked to our summer class last summer, he urged all of us students to set up a meeting with him afterward. And so, like, through my experience with Professor Macy's summer class, I ended up sending in an application to get an internship that she helped me with, and then I was able to do that. And then that internship's now just wrapping up. It's been a great experience for me. And since I'm at the end of that, I went on EntertainmentCareers.Net, and I was able to apply to some other positions at a sports agency that I'm interested in. And then my supervisor at my current agency, she's helped me come in contact with that other position that I used, EntertainmentCareers.Net. So it's kind of like full circle for me right now. So it was a really good experience for me last summer.
Great, and I'm so pleased to hear that. I'm sure Brad is as well, and just love your experience. And so just wanted to hear from you, and really appreciate it. So Sam, thank you. I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add, but that was great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just completely worthwhile. I mean, I remember originally going into that summer last year, I was a little hesitant because reading up on the memes program before the pandemic, like everyone was in person, you guys were traveling to like stadiums and doing a lot of cool things that I felt like I'd be missing out on if I were to sign up for it. But I went through with it, and yeah, it's basically the reason like I got my internship and I'm in the position I am right now. So it's
Beautiful. Great. Well, continued success to you, Sam.
Thank
And
you.
I saw that Dennis, you had your hand up earlier. Dennis Chen, would you like to chime in? Dennis is another former student, but your experiences as a student really help. So please, hi, Dennis. Good to see you.
Hi, it's great to see you, and hey, Brad, good to see you too. I meant to reach out to you, which I'll probably do later on. But anyways, yeah, for the program, like Sam just said, hey Sam, I was hesitant too. Like, I mean, I was in LA a year ago to check out the campus because I thought I was going to do it in person. I also attended Pulse, which is another cool event I attended. And when it went online, I was hesitant. I remember Beverly having a Zoom call with you in April, telling me the benefits of doing it. And I just went in there, and I went in there, and you guys did an amazing job. And I tell people that was like the highlights of 2020 for me, and oh yeah, I don't know if you know this, a month after, the only success I've had is after I was able to get my digital marketing certification. So yeah. And on the job front, I have a couple leads right now. That's all I can say right now. So thanks for us.
Well, that's really great, Dennis, and thank you for chiming in. And I think that that's great that you got a digital marketing certificate. As Brad was saying earlier, the skill sets that people are going to want to come to the table with are, changing somewhat in some ways, not in all ways, but in some ways. Would love to hear from any of the other people that are on the call that might have a question that maybe I don't know, or anybody who'd like to speak up? No? I don't see anything I don't see anybody with their hand raised. Okay, well, let's see what we can talk about. I would love to, if this was a class, I would call on you. I would cold call on you, just so you know, and make you talk. April, maybe you would like to, I don't know if April's still on the line, but April, maybe you'd like to take a minute to sort of talk about the structure of the sessions this year, because there's a little bit of difference. I think we're adding, the program is becoming so successful, we're adding more tracks to what's available.
Yes. Well, first I want to say thank you to you, Beverly and Brad, for taking the time today to do this webinar. It's always good to keep up with what's going on in the industry, and also to hear the success of this program and also your class, even through these changing times. I spoke to a lot of students last year in 2020 when it was announced that our program was going remote, and a lot of students were hesitant. And I'm so happy, students like Sam and Dennis who stuck through it and still was able to have a great experience. Just to let you know, this year our summer program will remain online. However, the benefits of it is going to be great. We're going to have a lot of industry executives in the entertainment and sports fronts to talk to the students. This year's program will begin June 21st and will go to July 31st. We will have 6 courses that students could choose from. So 2 out of the 6 courses that you could choose from. The 2 newer courses is the Business of Television, taught by Edward Sabin. That class will be actually offered in the afternoons from 4 to 7. We also have an additional sports course that we are also doing. It's athletic management. Sorry, I'm saying this wrong. Athletic management and sports partnerships. So that is another course that we are also offering. And you can find all of this information online. I had dropped the Center for Means web link in the chat. So please check it out. You are more than welcome to really get in contact with myself I'll actually put that in the chat. I will make some time to talk to any and all students who have questions in regards to our program. You could actually enroll now if you have already made the decision. UCLA students can enroll now. Any students outside of UCLA, enrollment will open up on February 15th.
Great, thank you, April. And just to make sure that everybody knows, my class is the business of media, entertainment, and sports. So it's really a business class talking about strategy and marketing and organizational management, but we use sports, entertainment, and media examples and case studies. So it's really a great way to sort of get an introduction to basic business, but also the idea of how that applies to these organizations that you're interested in being involved in. And so let's go ahead. Let's see if we have any questions at all. If anybody's gotten the idea that they'd like to speak up, please unmute and go ahead. If not, Brad, I'd love for you to just give a couple of, maybe closing comments, and we'll go ahead and end a couple minutes early. But I think this was an excellent session packed with information and news breaking. The studios are back in business. Everybody wants content, and internships are up. Employment is up, so all good.
Yeah, it's definitely a good sign. Again, sort of based on everything that we see, there's optimism over the next 3 to 6 months versus which we haven't seen in over a year. So to me, again, with this unique moment in time where we have the ability to do the program remotely and the ability to intern remotely, I think is going to be a real huge advantage to people, especially the out-of-market students who otherwise are going to be challenged to figure out how they're going to compete with the in-market students that can do those local internships. So to me, and obviously you've heard from Sam and Dennis and, my experience talking to a lot of the students throughout the years, you know, everyone says the same thing as Sam, which is it was a pivotal decision that they made. You know, and again, from the employer standpoint, it definitely separates you from that question of like, you know, did Hannah Palmer just wake up this morning and decide she wants to get in the entertainment industry? And here, there's something that shows ongoing interest in an industry. And also they walk away with a better understanding, because you get people like me who come in and tell you, again, probably not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. And so you have a very realistic view of what the industry looks like, success rates, how one becomes successful, and what it takes in order to succeed in an industry like that. So you walk away with a very realistic education about every aspect of the industry that I know you have different tracks at the Summer Institute, but you walk away with whatever your focal point is, and you have a realistic understanding. And also, you know, one of the greatest things is you've got an entry point, because Beverly has such amazing speakers come in. You have the ability to follow up with those guys also.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Brad. And again, I'm available to answer any questions through April. Just contact her. We will have speakers this year from Sony and Marvel, and Brad will come back, and Netflix, and sports agencies. And it's going to be a fantastic summer, already starting to line up. I have some interesting people from the world of boxing and MMA coming to talk about how business is booming through the pandemic. So it's going to be a great summer, April, thank you so much. I think we're finished.